Eeks had just missed the boat by a day. He asked one young human woman if she had seen any young goblins. The female human person was quick to talk to Eeks, and more friendly than Eeks was used to from humans. "Oh, of course. You are looking for those goblins. Well, they left on that boat." "No, but..." "Oh, of course. You would know that, wouldn't you?" "Oh, kind lady," Eeks said, "tell me, please, about the goblins. You say they left. Do you know how long ago that was? And which way they went?" The human lady ignored Eek's question and continued. "Oh, yes. The young goblins were in the show." "Oh my," she said, excited by the memory. "That little girl was so brave. But, oh. Did she do something wrong? Do you think that she had to be tied up to that wooden block and have that pirate king throw knives at her?" "What?" Eeks needed to have this explained in detail. "So, none of the knives actually hit the girl." From the description, Eeks decided that the girl must have been outlawed. And at least, the woman said that the goblin girl had not been hurt. But this human girl woman was right with her question. What had Outlug done to deserve having knives thrown at her while she was swinging back and forth on a pendulum target? So, Eeks took Lily by her rope and led her on the trail north out of town. He had gotten directions to the next town north. He could only hope that the pirates would stop there next. And, well, if they didn't stop there, then Eeks would just keep riding north. So long as there was a hope, Eeks was going to keep after his students.
Hello and welcome. So, this is our newest world building video. We are Wild Art Fly Free and we are building a fantasy world. It's really great that you could join us. We are building our world out of stories, and our stories are made from things like plots and scenes and locations and characters. We like it when people suggest ideas in the comments, but you really don't need to. And, also, if you do offer suggestions, please remember that everything that we create is public domain, so anyone can use it. No worries. And especially, please know that we are always interested in your ideas. In this video we are checking in on the goblin named Eeks. Eeks has been working as a teacher. Not long ago, however, the goblins that Eeks was supposed to be teaching ran away from him. They stowed away on a Viking pirate ship. Eeks' other companion on the trip, Dowig, met up with Alex and Fogdenser, and Dowig went home with them. Eeks is a goblin who has been raised by humans. On this trip, he had been working to explore his goblin side. He took on the job as a teacher. The elder goblins had thought that the young ones might gain some advantages from learning more about humans from a goblin who knew a lot about humans. But now the goblins have run away from Eeks, leaving him alone. Well, not quite alone. There is the cart horse named Lily. So now, Bunny is going to bring us back in time to when the goblins first encounter Lily. Please enjoy.
That had been then, but as Eeks remembered, now it was earlier. Eeks remembered when Dowwig had bought a cart horse and a cart. Goblins really don't like either dogs or horses. Eeks was a goblin, but he had been raised by humans. He didn't know that goblins really hated horses. The four young goblins watched with amusement, the first time that Eeks went up to Lily. But then, there was no stomping Eeks into mush. There was no rearing up in terror and breaking out of her stall. Lily just looked at him and kept eating her hay. Eeks talked to Lily. "Hello horse. How do you feel today? Would you like to walk around the outside with me?" The goblins kept watching. Lily kept eating. Munch, munch, munch. Then Eeks opened Lily's stall to let her out. Lily ignored him and kept on eating. Munch, munch, munch.
"Mr. Eeks,"
Fukok called,
"it will run away. You have to tie a rope around its neck."
Eeks listened and opened Lily's stall to let her out. Lily ignored him and kept on eating. Munch, munch, munch.
"Mr. Eeks,"
Fukok called,
"it will run away. You have to tie a rope around its neck."
Eeks listened and nodded. He noted that Fukok and the other students were all very attentive. As Eeks went to fetch a rope, he made a point to learn why he had their attention this time so he could repeat it with other lessons. And then later, Eeks and the goblins had some luck in getting Lily to come when they pulled on her rope, but really, only when Lily felt like it. And the goblins really didn't want to be near enough to the horse to tie a rope around its neck. Eeks didn't have any luck getting Lily to pull the cart. But, then neither did the human man, Dowwig. The goblins tried to tie the rope around the horse. They were very scared. Later they were only just very scared. It became a challenge and a game among the goblins about who could get close to Lily. Lily just watched Zigmemsen, as he crept up to the horse. Step, wait, step, wait. Lily seemed to get bored. She turned her head to take another bite of hay, but at the same time, she raised one of her front hooves, and then she set it down again. Maybe she was just adjusting her footing. Okay. But then she turned her head to look directly at Zigmemsen. Zigmemsen backed away much quicker than he had come in. Step, 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 step. In the next scene, the goblins have learned to come bearing horse treats. This was what Dowwig did with the goblins. He gave them treats as if he were training them as pet lizards. Fukok cursed in Goblin.
"That Dowwig is a bull brain and he thinks we should be his pet lizards. He gives us a yellow cake and thinks we will do what he wants."
Yes. Zigmemsen agreed, nodding. "But the blue cakes are tasty. We can pretend to be good, if we get a blue cake." Right, yes. Sullenly, Fukok had to agree.
"Okay. But, not the yellow cakes. We can pretend, but only when it's a blue cake."
And they all agreed. Being trained like a pet lizard was demeaning, when Dowwig gave them yellow cakes.
"Well, what do you expect?"
Outlug summed it up.
"Dowwig is just a bull brain. But he does seem to learn, eventually."
As it turns out, Lily was never very impressed with Eeks. She was, however, strangely tolerant of the goblins. And, on the long trip, she learned to accept the company of all of the goblins. Even Eeks.
Okay. The goblins didn't seem to like the idea of Dowig bribing them with food. They associated it with how animals are trained. We have been playing with the idea that goblins are a visible minority among the other peoples. And, well, now I have been thinking, we have been thinking about how visible minorities might be treated a bit like animals by greater society. And, well, as a teacher, this intrigues me. So, I have some questions. What is the difference between teaching and training? And is training a bad thing? When you learn a new job, they train you, don't they? What do you think? Anyway, it's maybe not the training that offended the goblins, but the idea of using food as a reward. Parents use food treats as a reward all the time. That's probably how Dowig had been thinking of the goblins. But, the goblins are adolescents and adolescents really don't like to be treated like young children. But, Vukork associated the treats with training animals. Is this a sore spot with Vukork? How sensitive is the greater goblin community about being treated like animals by what Eeks calls polite society? Anyway, we have some ideas about how some groups think of other groups as animals. So, what do you think? While we build our fantasy world, should we even play with ideas about prejudices and racism? If we do, we will try very hard to be careful not to offend too much. But, I do think that we can use some of our stories to illustrate these deep issues. Anyway, we can let these ideas sink in for a while, and now, let's let Bunny get on with our story.
Hello. Okay, well, we have built an animation of the goblins on top of Lily. Bunny wanted to put it into this video just because of how cute she thinks it is. So, when we add a scene like this, even a very cute one, we still need to be sure that it fits into the timeline. So, I guess we need to acknowledge that our goblins did learn to ride Lily. And, we can assume that Eeks will have known about this, but so far Eeks hasn't ridden Lily. Why not? Do we need to explain it? Or do we just write on? So Owl has brought up the question of how or even if we talk about racism. Well, as a turtle, I am very used to keeping my head down and avoiding conflict. But, I must protest about the idea that some people are treated like animals because they are considered to be less. Again, I am a turtle, and well, associating people as animals should be considered a compliment. Depending on the animal, of course. Anyway, I don't know if I should mention it, because of spoilers, but the knife throwing wasn't as scary as the people make it sound. If you want to know more, check out our earlier videos. I don't know if I should mention this either, but I have been playing with the campfire and I made it smaller, but there was some issues. Hopefully I can get them fixed before we send this video out, but if not, I just want to apologize. But, we are all still learning, so please be patient. Thank you.
So Eeks took Lily by her rope and led her on the trail north out of town. He had gotten directions to the next town. Eeks could only hope that the pirates would stop there next. And, well, if they didn't stop there, then Eeks would just keep riding north. So long as there was a hope, Eeks was going to keep following his students. This time was easier and a little quicker. Lily seemed to accept that they were in a hurry. Once, though, she stopped at an apple tree and refused Eeks' urgings to keep going even though the apples were too high up for the horse to reach. So, Eeks climbed the tree to where the apples were and dropped down enough to make any horse happy. And Lily did seem happy. So, as Lily munched on some of the apples, Eeks gathered up the rest for later on the trail. Lily gave him a look, but accepted what Eeks was doing. As Eeks explained to Lily, he was the one who climbed the tree, so it was only fair that he could share in the apples. As they moved on, Eeks did try biting into one of the apples, but it wasn't very good. Yes, if you were hungry, it could keep you going, but it certainly wasn't the treat that Lily seemed to think it was. Eeks offered the rest of his apple to Lily, who was walking beside him. She ate it without stopping. And so they walked on. Unfortunately, though, Eeks was not in any way familiar with this part of the world, and a recent rain made a river shallows too deep to cross, so Eeks had to backtrack and go further up the river to where he could cross. So, several days later, Eeks was disappointed, but not surprised to learn that again, he had missed the pirate boat by a day. Again, Eeks asked about the young goblins, and again, strangely, he got almost exactly the same response. This dwarf was sure that the goblin girl who was being used as target practice must have done something very bad.
But, these were all goblins, so it must have been a goblin thing.
The dwarf looked to Eeks, almost like he had just noticed that Eeks himself was a goblin.
No offense, he said. Probably very sensible.
The dwarf muttered.
But my goodness! How that Viking pirate could throw those knives! Thunk, thunk, thunk. Always into the target, just a finger from the girl. So, they could have used anything for a target, or just the target itself. No. That girl must have done something awful.
So, Eeks walked on and Lily followed.
Eeks wants to learn about goblins, and asks the people of Swanford what they know about goblins. Eeks learns more about the people that he talks to than he learns about goblins. Eventually, Eeks meets Chugskid, who is a dwarf and politically active. Chugskid is the leader of an organization dedicated to the rights and recognition of small peoples, including dwarfs, gnomes and halflings. Why goblins are not included on that list is a difficult question for Chugskid to answer. Chugskid and Eeks agree to go to Dog's Digs, the nearby mining development. While they are there, Eeks and Chugskid meet more people, including some interesting and important goblins. The goblins are curious about Eeks. He is educated and well-spoken, by human standards. He is also friendly and importantly to goblins, he has a sense of humor, so Eeks is deemed to be acceptable to the consensus of the goblins there. Eeks is now a teacher in charge of 4 young goblins. He hopes to teach the juvenile goblins some skills to survive in polite society. We now need to build some goblin youth.
So that's something Chug's kid will think about, that maybe Eeks could be good for these juvenile goblins, give them some sort of hint about how to behave in polite society, and while Eeks is learning about goblins, and Eeks might learn how goblins don't always behave in polite society.
This is awesome. Our lone goblin will no longer be alone. He has found some more goblins and he has even gotten a job. Eeks is going to be a teacher. Our guy who doesn't know about goblins is going to teach young goblins how to be more human. Nothing could possibly go wrong, could it?
Something happened in Swanford and most of the important people left town, including our goblins and the landlord named Dowig. Their path through the wilderness looks like a drunken snake. Each dot is about 30 kilometers or 18 miles across. Walking speed is about 3 kilometers per hour or 2 miles per hour. So our guys can probably walk about 1 dot per day. They won't be in a hurry once they get away from Swanford, so let's say they will take about 2 days per dot on average. There are somewhere close to 100 dots on the path, so we could think about 200 days for the trip. Of course, not all of our guys, or even any of them, will necessarily arrive when and where the path suggests, but as story builders, this path gives us something to work with. We are all in this together. Okay. Now, how about Eeks? The goblins would have a higher opinion of Eeks. Obviously, even a messed up goblin is still a goblin, and Eeks is kind of cool, in his messed upness. Now though, the group has been traveling for many weeks by this time. Maybe all of the travel and all of the learning will get on everyone's nerves. So now, how about if Eeks has been promising something to the goblins and it isn't going to happen? What would the goblins want? After weeks traveling and also learning? What would Eeks have been promising them to keep them motivated?
Clop. 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 The docks were always busy, and noisy, but to Fukok at least, that sound seemed to cut through all the rest of the clatter. And the clopping continued and came closer, and the bustle of the docks opened a space to let it through. Clop, clop, clop. And then it stopped. And there he was. From the green coat and hat, Fukok knew it had to be Eeks. But then, this goblin was on a horse. And, Fukok also noticed that not just the clop-clop of the horse had stopped. All of the noisy bustle of the docks had also stopped. Everyone on the docks was looking. Yes, thought Fukok. Everyone knew that goblins and horses hated each other. But of course, Fukok also knew that this was Eeks and Lily. She let out a giggle. But then Fukok noticed that there was more to the picture besides a goblin on a horse. This was a goblin on a horse with a long pointy stick attached to his saddle. And, this was also a goblin with a glint in his eye. And Fukok also noticed that this was a goblin with a lot of very sharp pointy teeth. Eeks was smiling. This was the goblin knight that the goblins had tried to build for themselves. So then, Eeks talked to the goblins. He offered the chance for them to come along with Eeks. But, after some thinking, the goblins knew that they have made a cow-mitten tent to Deadville Fishy's troop. They have jobs now and responsible trees. Fukok explained.
We are in the show. Outlug is a star. She gets so scared, for the show.
Yes. Eeks said. I watched your show today. This was a very good show. You were all very tricksy. You should all be very proud. And then Zig Memson said a thank you to Eeks. You taught us some good human words and it really helps for talking to the bull brains. Trugyuk is very happy. We are all full members of the troop now. The others nodded. So, Eeks said his goodbyes to the goblins. He and Lily would be going back to Swanford now. He told the goblins. I need to tell the elder goblins what we have been doing and that you are all right. Then the lone goblin rode away on his horse, and the young goblins sailed away on the pirate boat. And that was the last they saw of each other. Until the next time. How long will that be? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you.